My name is Liz Shaw, and I've come to stop the end of the world.
Hello and welcome to a very special review, as this review is dedicated to the late great Caroline John. Now, if I get this video right, this will be uploaded on the day she sadly passed away. And this video, like I said, is dedicated to the criminally underrated Liz Shaw. So without further ado, let's look at the last post on how it's presented. So for the cover art, I've got to say this is one of my favourite Big Finish covers there. We've got some writing there, we've got the blue 70s vortex, we've got the earth in the background, then we've got Liz, the apocalypse clock there, and the third Doctor in Bessie there, and then we do have the third Doctor banner there. The spine and the back of the CD, and there's the blurb, so do feel free to pause if you want to know more about the story. And we've got a bit of information where this story takes place, and the total running time is So opening up the booklet, we have a lovely picture of Caroline John there, and then we've got some credits, advertisement for Doctor Who magazine, and we have the reversible cover there, and the disc art. Now, right from the bat, I'm going to say this is one of my favourite, if not my favourite, Companion Chronicles stories they've done, and this is definitely in my top 10 favourite Big Finish stories. I just absolutely adore it. Now, you may be wondering, why have I chose this to review and dedicate to Caroline John? Well, I could have read the Bluetooth, Binary, Shadow of the Past, or the Centaurs of the New Dawn, but this story felt more poignant, as this was the last story she recorded playing Liz Shaw, and the theme of the story just makes it rather bittersweet. Now, if you love Season 7, then you will love this story, as this story truly is a love letter to Season 7, with it expanding on characters' deaths like Dr. Lawrence, Tartalian, and Masters, and even you have a little appearance of Sir Keith. Alongside that, you do have a future nods into Season 8 with BBC Three from like the Damons, and we have a reference of Stangmore Prison. And if you've ever heard of Who Killed Kennedy, that book, which is essentially the Bible of the Pertwee era, well, this to me is basically the Big Finish equivalent. Part 1, you are instantly hooked with this story by the pre-title sequence. The format of a story, I've got to say, is beautiful. It's a very unique way of telling a story. You either have Liz and Emily, Emily is Liz's mom, in a cafe, or you have them sending letters to each other throughout different time points throughout Season 7. So at the start of a story, you still have the Doctor and Liz fighting the Nestines. Now, the actual plot of the story is very thought-provoking, with this doomsday apocalypse clock looming in the background, which the seeds are set nicely for that. But the idea of being handed a letter and it accurately predicting when you will die is quite horrific, and quite a horrifying and very chilling concept, but fits into Season 7 rather well. And it does have some interesting questions, you know, who are the committee and what are they doing this with the apocalypse. The cliffhanger for the story is very strong. It's an emotional cliffhanger, yet it has this very haunting feel to it, with the use of sound design utilised to the utmost, with this clock ticking, casting a shadow over the characters we love. Part 2. Now, this part itself feels a lot more eerie and chilling in parts, as we kind of get more of a tonal shift as the apocalypse clock comes into the forefront. Now, we do have an interesting idea raised within this part of the story, as if humans are in stasis, would the end of the world still happen? Now, the side threat of the story being these small metal scorpions will have clocks for faces, just seem to fit to a Season 7 environment beautifully. And they're a nice little threat with a nasty sting. Now, that's the thing, I've really got to praise James Goss with this. I can easily picture this being part of Season 7. I can easily picture seeing this on television. Just the imagery created throughout, which I'm going to talk to you about now. Now, the Scorpions themselves are a great image, along with Unit going full military assault on Parliament, which I think every fan would love to see. As you may gather, this story does have a few political undertones, and the story does have links to the War Machines and even links to Inferno. And the ending, wow, it's just really nice way to finish off the story, with Liz and Emily joking about spiders, obviously the theme of the story being about death and predicting death, and obviously the third Doctor being in it, it's quite nice and quite a little funny thing about them joking about spiders. Liz Shaw, Caroline John, she really is a force of nature within this, with Liz being written on screen, I guess, as a cold, logical scientist, but in this we see a family woman who is rebuilding a relationship with her mom, who I will say just have a great chemistry, causing for some great exchanges, which I just love, and that causes some we get to see sort of a frustration of her working for UNIT and the pressure it has, leading her to confide in her mom. And this story I really feel is a character piece for Liz, as we see how much her mind has opened, and we see how the Doctor's made her fight for knowledge, and not taking no for an answer, and leading for her to be quite defiant and standing up to the apocalypse clock, which is a real powerful scene to experience. And we do see a vulnerable side to her, with her feeling hopeless with the Doctor not listening, and her mom being very secretive. Every aspect is explored for Liz, and Caroline John just nails it. Emily Shaw, played by Rowena Cooper. Now, if you know my thoughts on the Cloisters of Terror, you will know I absolutely love Dame Emily Shaw, the comic relief of the story. Very much a typical mum character, proud of Liz and quite unimpressed that Liz is being a second fiddle as a science advisor until she meets the Doctor, which is a heartwarming scene for any third Doctor fan. Can be quite secretive, but has a cheeky side to her. But overall, you cannot help but love her. Doctor, played by Caroline John. Now, the Doctor only plays a peripheral role within this story, because the story is very much about Liz investigating these goings on. Now, I've got to say, James Goss summed up the third Doctor tinkering up well with what Liz said about the Doctor. Wonderful and annoying, and yet oddly he looks like her Uncle Bernard. He likes being childish and assumes that if he doesn't want to be found, he won't be. James Goss just captures the third Doctor down to a T, with his little mannerisms, from rubbing his chin, hands on his hips, and the dialogue he has is magnificent. We have the hero dashing in just in the nick of time, with the cape fluttering in the wind and the shock of white hair. We still have him sulking over the Silurians, so that's great character expansion, and they're still continuing that theme that it affected the Doctor. And we even know what the Doctor does at night when he's tinkering in the unit supplies, and Liz gets the blame for the Doctor's little messing around with the cupboard. But the best way to describe the third Doctor in this story is the charming hero, and Caroline John brings all this to life wonderfully, and really does capture the essence of the third Doctor, and even has John's rhythm of speech on how he would deliver lines, and just mix that with James Goss' superb writing and very descriptive of the third Doctor, and just the mannerisms the third Doctor has. And Caroline John's performance of the Doctor is just magnificent. You cannot help but picture John Pertwee. Also, she brings to life the Brigadier, and she really does capture the smug side of the Brig in the early days. And we even have Caroline John doing an Irish accent, playing this character called Pristane, this sly, cunning, dominant character to life. And this story really does show Caroline John's sheer skill as an actress. She is just phenomenal within this story. So, to conclude, the best way to sum up this story is witty, creative and nostalgic, and a real love letter to the early Pertwee years. And what a fantastic final hurrah for Caroline John, a story I highly recommend you check out. And I'm so glad we've got some more stories with Liz Shaw. These are the big Finish stories that she did in terms of companion chronicles. So I best rate The Last Post, and I think it's pretty obvious what the rating is going to be. It is a solid 10 out of 10. I highly recommend you check out The Last Post, and indeed the other companion chronicles that she's done. The Bluetooth is magnificent. I rate that a 9 out of 10. It's a magnificent story where we see the third Doctor face the Cybermen. Binary is a very nice story. If you love ICT, then you'll love Binary. Centaurs of a New Dawn is a brilliant, you've got the third Doctor on a speedboat. It's just magnificent. What more can you ask for a story? And Simon Gurrier with Shadow of the Past, another brilliant story. I highly recommend you check out some of these companion chronicles, because they are just magnificent. But the one I recommend you check out the most is The Last Post, a real fitting tribute for Caroline John, and like I said, a real love letter to the early Pertwee years. So thank you very much for watching this review. And yeah, thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. So thank you very much, and goodbye.